What if I told you there was one simple thing that you could do that would improve your physical, mental, and emotional well-being? It's easy to use, it's applicable for all ages, and it's been a critical part of human existence. Only recently have we forgotten its vital role in our lives. Almost daily, I hear firsthand from someone who's experienced its benefits. And this past year, possibly more than ever, it was essential relief for people during the COVID crisis. There are plenty of peer-reviewed research studies to back it up. It's free, and we could all go outside right now and get a dose. And I'm not talking about vitamin D, though some people have referred to it as vitamin N, to which I heard a local doctor once reply that we should think of it less like a vitamin and more like a whole foods approach. But it's not a food, though it is nourishing for mind, body, and soul. Some other words I've heard used to describe it: refreshing, revitalizing, mind-clearing, exhilarating, epic, romantic, bucolic, peaceful, calming, centering. In some places, even in Massachusetts, you can get a prescription for it. Your insurance might even pay for it, but not in many places. In many places, it's still considered a luxury, something only for the very wealthy or those with a lot of free time. I'm talking about nature, the outdoors, the environment that sustains us, whether we recognize and appreciate its benefits or even have an adversarial relationship to it. Some of you are probably thinking, well, obviously, but we have to pause here because it's not obvious to millions of people. And even if we agree that, yes, nature is critical, our relationship to it is broken. Many times it's purely consumptive or based in fear, and oftentimes non-existent. Humans as a whole are disconnected from nature. In 2005, the author Richard Louv used the term nature deficit disorder. And it's a useful term to describe the mental and physical impacts of our disconnect from the natural world. And as more and more research studies are conducted, we're learning that nature deficit disorder, this disconnection, contributes to higher rates of emotional and physical illness. There are countless studies that have identified a correlation between increased time spent in nature and a decrease in stress and depression, a regulation of blood pressure, an improvement in concentration. Even a mere view of a forest from an office space improves job satisfaction, and a view of trees from a hospital room improves recovery time and can reduce the need for pain medication. Research also points to nature deficit as weakening our connection to and our understanding of ecology. So this disconnect leads to the erosion of our care and our motivation to care for the environment. And you can see how this reinforces this negative cycle that the more disconnected we become from nature, the less we understand and recognize its critical benefits. So then when it comes time to protect land or ensure access to all or parks for people, we're so far removed that we no longer recognize these as the critical need that they are. But we have to recognize that nature should not be considered a luxury. It's a critical need alongside access to healthy food, clean water, healthcare. And there are millions of people that are living without a connection to this basic need. So what do we do? One of the misconceptions is that we have to do something extreme to have a transformative experience in nature. We have to hike the whole Appalachian Trail or spend a whole summer sleeping in a tent or have expert survival skills or fancy equipment, and this simply is not true. Even a few minutes outdoors can have profound effects on your well-being and your state of mind. What's important is to truly engage with what you're experiencing, to be present and fully aware of two things: what's going on around you and what's going on inside of you. And I want to share an example with you of programs that we developed to help focus on the present moment awareness, both internally and externally. This was 7 years ago. Through my work with Mass Audubon, we began partnering with the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health, which was located less than 10 minutes away from one of our wildlife sanctuaries. And our intention at the time was to help Kripalu guests become more comfortable and oriented with the land and trails on the Kripalu campus, to help both staff and guests integrate nature awareness and connection more fully into their experience. And I want to be clear, this was not just about naming the birds and the trees and the rocks and the wildlife. It was about noticing and getting to know the world around us. So we developed several programs: getting to know the trees, a pollinator meditation in the wildflower meadow, and an early morning program listening to bird song. And as we taught these programs and guests experienced them, we as environmental educators were struck by the similarities between how we facilitated nature observation and the mindfulness practices that were being taught by the Kripalu faculty. And we realized I realized in a more reflective way than ever before, why I felt so good and so refreshed and so calm after a walk in the woods or a morning spent birding. And why I love to close my eyes and listen to the bird songs surrounding me, sometimes focusing on a single sound and other times letting it wash over me like a symphony. Why, after a stressful day, I took the 5-minute walk down to Pike's Pond to sit on the bench and overlook the pond. Why it felt like hitting the reset button on my screen-fatigued, meeting-fatigued, hyper-stimulated brain. It was a natural progression from here for us to develop a 4-day birding and mindfulness retreat program, and it was a thrill to welcome people from all different backgrounds and birding abilities. If you didn't know, bird can be used as a verb. So you might know someone who birds, or you might be that someone. And if you are, you know that we go out sometimes before dawn with our binoculars and our checklists, and we try to see as many species as we can. And sometimes it can be really competitive. It's a lot of fun. But it can take years to develop that skill set, and it can sometimes feel exclusionary or elite. So birding and mindfulness is different. It's about present moment awareness through the lens of birds. So no checklist, binoculars are optional, and with each experience, we approach it with a beginner's mind, letting go of the expectations of what we might see and hear, and instead focusing on what we're seeing and hearing in the present moment. And one of the most rewarding experiences came from a woman at the end of her birding and mindfulness program. She was a bird trip leader who had led programs and trips throughout the world. She could name any warbler that came across her path. And I could tell at first she was a little reluctant when we would spend an entire morning watching a common bird like a chickadee, rather than trying to see all the species we could and check them off our daily checklist. But then when it came time for her review at the end of the program, she simply wrote, "Wow, you've introduced me to a whole new way of looking at the world." And this approach of present moment awareness in the outdoors, it's not just about birds. It could be applicable to something as simple as walking. How many times are we so fixated on our end goal, where we want to get to, that we miss what's right in front of us? We miss the deer that's just off the trail or the wildflower that's right in our path. Walking outdoors is a powerful way to shift your mind, and there are so many different ways to get outside for a walk. For me, sometimes it does mean throwing in my earbuds and listening to a TED Talk and going on a trail run, and that's okay. But for a more potent mind shift, I practice a slower form, more similar to a walking meditation. And I have to come clean and admit that just a few years ago, the idea of a meditation was a total struggle for me. Completely impossible to think about getting my over-caffeinated, hyper-stimulated, moderately anxious self to sit on a cushion and focus on my breath. No way. So walking was a much more accessible way of slowing down for me. In 5 minutes of intentional and aware walking outdoors, I can experience a complete transformation in my state of mind. And I'm not alone. I've shared this with thousands of people, the simple practice of walking slowly outdoors, paying attention, feeling each footstep, hearing each twig, each blade of grass, or the crunching snow. And it does not have to be walking. For my mom, it means getting in her wheelchair and taking several city blocks from her downtown apartment to get fresh air and be outside, look for birds, and appreciate the street trees. So this is something that you can try anywhere. Take 5 minutes and try this. See if it works for you. It might not, and that's okay, because there's no one-size-fits-all nature prescription, but we do need nature in some form. Research has demonstrated the benefits. We can look to the past year and a half for some ways that people reconnected by going outside. When we were told to stay home, work from home, school from home, stock up on groceries, wear masks, so many people went outside for escape, relief, safety. And as the weeks and the months wore on, we learned we could be outside more safely, with masks on at first and then socially distanced, and it was a way to get out of the house. And we rode our bikes and took hikes in all kinds of weather. And we would go outside for our dinner, and we could look over the fence and sort of wave to our neighbors who were doing the same. At Mass Audubon, we made our camps completely outdoors under tarps in February and April. We operated an outdoor nature preschool through the entire winter. Outdoor book club, outdoor theater, outdoor dining, outdoor weddings, outdoor boot camp, outdoor learning, outdoor music. We lost so much and so many, but we can't lose sight of what we gained. And our reconnection with nature can happen in so many ways. So now is the time for you to make a plan. How will you make sure that nature's part of your everyday life? Will you go outside every morning with your cup of coffee? Will you notice and feel the soil while tending to a small herb garden? Or feel the breeze on your face during an outdoor music concert? Can you find 15 minutes each day for a short and mindful walk around your office block? Can you sit on a park bench and close your eyes and listen to the birds and the breeze in the trees overhead? We absolutely must do this for ourselves, alongside vegetables and getting enough sleep and getting exercise. And if we want to live in healthy communities, we must ensure that everyone has access to nature, because nature is critical to human health, and access is a basic need and should not be considered a luxury. And humans need to reconnect for our own well-being and that of the environment. Thank you.